I will get a lot of people saying, I want to be on page one for that keyword. And my answer would always be the same. Why? Can you categorically tell me that that is what your audience are looking for and that's what they're keen on? Well, it's obvious. No, it isn't obvious, because we're all completely different human beings and we all think very differently. So a specific group of people are going to think very differently from another specific group of people. So you need hard data and facts to back up. You know, as a small business owner, trying to rank for high volume keywords isn't going to happen. It's never going to happen. So to say to me, you know, this keyword gets 10,000 searches a month and I want to be on page one for it, somebody is going to confirm that and say they can do that for you. I just don't agree. I just really do not agree. It's never going to happen because they haven't got the budgets to be able to compete with the companies that have got the marketing teams, the SEO teams, that have got the money to be able to put into paid ads. They just can't compete. So you've got to look at the niche terms for niche groups of people that have got a very specific and real problem.
Well, welcome everyone. I am so excited for today's interview. I have this amazing lady. She's a multi-award winning global SEO strategist, and she has a high converting SEO strategy for your business. And this lovely lady, is known as the SEO Angel, and she's definitely an angel. And I would love to welcome Andrea Rainsford. So welcome today.
Thank you, Kathy. Absolute pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Like I said, I am so excited to have you because I think SEO is one of those areas that a lot of people are afraid of, or maybe they neglect. And why do you think that is?
I think I know the answer, and I think it's quite sad that a lot of business owners feel that it's very complicated, it's very technical, it's a dark art that they can't possibly understand, and I'm on a mission to change it. I want it to make it accessible to everybody. I want to make sure that small business owners realise that it can be part of the puzzle when they start out. It's not something that they have to avoid until they've got plenty of money in the bank. I want to teach and help and to spread the word so that they understand the basics right from day one, so they don't overspend, they don't waste hard-earned money, and they know the questions that they've got to ask, and they understand the process for when they start working with a professional.
So why do you think entrepreneurs should really be concerned with SEO? What does it do for their business?
The reason that you need to think about SEO right from the outset is because, and there is a saying that makes me smile, and that is that they say that social media is sexy, but SEO pays the bills. And I always smile at that.
I like that. That's great.
Yeah, I love it. It's sad that SEO is not sexy, but what can you do? So the reason that they say that is that SEO pays the bills because you haven't got to convince a group of people that they need your solution. So those people are already out there looking. They've already decided that they've got an issue. They need to solve that issue, and they go to look for you to provide that solution. So it's an easy fix. It's an easy win because you haven't got to convince them. They're already looking for you. So my job is to make sure that they find you over your search competition. So we've all got search competition. We've all got people that are going to rank ahead of us. That doesn't mean that we have direct competition, because I feel that we all have different skills, different experiences. We have different processes. We do things differently. So even though the solution might be similar, the process and the person is going to be completely different. So we may not have direct competition that we can compare to, but we all have search competition, and that's people that are going to come up for the same terms, phrases, content, etc.
Okay. So what should we do then? I mean, what would be like the top 3 steps? How would someone like myself, that doesn't know anything about SEO, how would we start?
When I started out as an SEO, I started out as an SEO tech. I created web traffic for websites, and on the whole, that is what an SEO will do for you. I found it very soul destroying, and I'll be honest, and that's no disrespect to other technical SEOs, but from my perspective, to simply create traffic to a website was not sufficient. I wanted to take it that little step further. I wanted to make sure that I was transforming businesses, that I was making a difference to businesses. So the traffic was landing there, but what was then happening with it? I wanted to make sure that that traffic was going to convert. So I look at SEO a little bit differently. And I think that as an SEO consultant or as an SEO tech in the beginning, I made a number of assumptions. And those assumptions were that the business had got a business plan, they'd got growth objectives, they'd got targets, and they knew exactly what the business was going, how it was going to get there. And also I made another assumptions that this business had got a very clear ideal client and target audience, that they knew exactly who they were going to work with and why. And so I used to come in at the research phase where the client would tell me, this is what I want to be visible for. I'd take that and run with it. So I think I've now realised, and that's the biggest amount of mistakes that you can make as an SEO. So as a new business starting out, in answer to your question, you need a very, very clear vision. You need a very clear plan of where the business is going and where you want to get to. You need to identify what those objectives are to get you there, and then and what are the targets that are based around those objectives. Because if we don't know what we want from the business, we don't know how we're going to grow it, and we don't know where we're going with it, we then don't have anything to base our SEO strategy on it. And so the SEO strategy formulates the growth objectives are going to determine which marketing channels we're going to focus on and which channels we're going to talk to our ideal client in. And then we need to validate that ideal client. So in terms of marketing your business, you may feel as though you know your ideal client inside out. You might have an avatar, you might be marketing to that person. But with SEO and in my programs, we validate, is that ideal client looking for you? Because that's at the crux of all of your marketing activity. If they're not looking for the solution you provide, your marketing and your SEO is going to be that much harder. So we know we've got a very, very clear ideal client. We know we've got a target audience who are out there searching for us. We then need to understand how they think and how they buy. So the third issue that I tend to find when I'm working with my clients is they make a number of assumptions on how their audience think and how they buy. And that's the third thing. So you've got to have a very, very clear business plan and growth objectives, a validated and clear ideal client and audience. And then you have to be very, very clear on how they're searching and looking for you. If those are the three main things that are going to create those sound foundations, and without those, you're not going to get the high converting, you're not going to get the consistent income from SEO. You're going to get traffic, don't get me wrong, but I personally feel as though just simply getting traffic isn't enough. We need to give these businesses a helping hand. We need to give them a very, very sound starting point. And if we can be consistently found by our audience, then that's going to have a huge impact on our income.
I had seen that you had posted somewhere, I just want to make sure I have it correct, create revenue, not traffic, which I absolutely love that statement, because that really kind of sums it all up, doesn't it?
I think I've worked with a number of large corporates, and they've come to me and said, we're working with SEO agencies, and we get a report every month that says, we've got lots of green arrows, all the keywords are going in the right direction, they're all on page one, but there's no increase in revenue. So you've got to sit and ask yourself, if that's the case, then there's an issue. I will get a lot of people saying, I want to be on page one for that keyword, and my answer would always be the same: why? Can you categorically tell me that is what your audience are looking for and that's what they're keen in? Well, it's obvious. No, it isn't obvious, because we're all completely different human beings and we all think very differently. So a specific group of people are going to think very differently from another specific group of people. So you need hard data and facts to back up. As a small business owner, trying to rank for high volume keywords isn't going to happen. It's never going to happen. So to say to me, this keyword gets 10,000 searches a month and I want to be on page one for it, somebody is going to confirm that and say they can do that for you. I just don't agree. I just really do not agree. It's never going to happen, because they haven't got the budgets to be able to compete with the companies that have got the marketing teams, the SEO teams, that have got the money to be able to put into paid ads. They just can't compete. So you've got to look at the niche terms for niche groups of people that have got a very specific and real problem. And I'll give an example of that. And that is, there was a lady that came to me. She's a nutritionist. She'd started a nutrition business. It was a fabulous business, but it was very, very new. And she wanted to target women over 40 who needed to lose weight. a totally and utterly saturated market.
Right.
I don't know a woman over 40 that doesn't want to lose weight because of the menopause. It's just, we've all struggled with it.
Unfortunately, correct?
Middle-aged spread is a word that women over 40 know only too well. I said to her, it's just not a distinct enough market. So we went through the process that I go through with all of my clients, and I did the research, and the research came back with a very, very clear group of women that needed her expertise, and that was fertility nutrition. So it was women that were desperate to get pregnant, that so wanted a child. The volumes were not high, but they weren't low. But there's a very, very distinct search intent. There was a very specific reason that they needed her, and her business is flying because the women. It's a very, very real issue that they want to solve. And I'm not saying that losing weight isn't a real issue, but it covers a far wider group of people. Whereas the smaller the niche, the smaller the group, the smaller the issue. You've got that higher chance of being seen, of being visible, which then means that we're going to create that consistent income for the business. So if you think about businesses that create their own website and they write their own content, they do their own SEO, and they'll create it themselves. The small business owners will say to me, but I had to do that because I didn't have any revenue and I couldn't afford it. But then I asked them to sit down and think about how long it's taken them to do it. And that's time they could have been spending with their clients. And that's time they could have been spending on client work. And that's time they could have been marketing, because we all know that we've got areas of expertise, and we've got choices. We've got 4 choices. We can either ask an expert, we can do nothing, we can ask somebody else, or we can do it ourselves. Ask the competition or do it ourselves. We've got 4 options. And if we're going to create that consistent revenue right from the outset as a small business, my recommendation is always to save. So save the money for your website till you can employ an SEO consultant, you can employ a designer and a brand expert, and you can pay for a developer. I would also say, as part of that, you need to be able to pay for a content writer and a copywriter as well. So you really need 4 experts when you're creating a website. So SEO first, then your copywriter, then your designer, and then your developer. And I always recommend that they save until they can afford those 4 people, because that is going to be the best spend of their money. That is going to be the best return on investment. A lot of people rush it. They will go straight into design and build, and they'll write the content themselves. What you're actually doing is wasting your money, because you're not going to be found. And if you're writing it yourself, you might be the best content writer in the world, but usually when we're in our businesses, we're far too close to it.
Mm-hmm. That's right. It's a little bit of a tunnel vision.
Tunnel vision, yeah, totally. So that is always my recommendation. So I would recommend that we do the SEO, we do the research, we plan, we sort the ideal client, and then we do the research and implement into other marketing channels. So we need to, you don't need to be in all of them. Don't spread your time too thinly. As if there's only you in the business, trying to manage all of the social media channels, a YouTube channel, a podcast, a passive income course, a course on Teachable, it's just far, far, far too much. So you need to do some research into where your ideal client is hanging out. So say, for example, you want to attract corporate CEOs. They're very, very busy people. The only chance you've probably got to get in front of them on social media is going to be LinkedIn.
Right.
They're not going to be on Facebook. They're not going to be on TikTok. They're not going to be on Instagram, because they're very busy. The chances are they're going to be reading your blogs, because they read their newsletters. So if they're on your email, if you've managed to get them onto your emails newsletter, then they're going to be reading your blogs and your content. And a lot of people think that SEO doesn't matter when it comes to email marketing, but it does, because what SEO is giving you is what your ideal client wants to read about. So if you're not writing an email newsletter that isn't tackling the issues and the problems and the things that your audience you want to read about, your click-through rate and your open rate is just not going to be very good. So SEO does figure in every area of your business, even if, like newsletters, you can't search for them.
That's I have to say you're providing a lot of nuggets, because that's so true, and it's a different way of thinking that really SEO drives everything, including your email marketing. I mean, think about that. I mean, that's how, in many cases, if they don't see you on social media, perhaps they'll see you, they'll see one of your emails. And if you don't have that driven by SEO, I mean, that is eye-opening. It really is eye-opening.
You want them to open your emails.
Yes.
And if your strap line, your headline for your email is the biggest issue that they want to solve, they're going to open it. It's as simple
Absolutely.
as that. And if you know that, and you know that that's what their biggest issue is, and you know you're the person to solve it, then you need to make sure that they're going to read it. So, as a small business owner, we need all the help we can get. We want them to open our emails. We want them to read our social media posts. And in the ebook, which I know that you're going to mention at the very end, is that one of the stats in there is 8 out of 10 people only read the headline of your social media posts. So, and one tip I would give there is your headline's usually somewhere in the middle. So when you write your post, go back and read it 2 or 3 times, because the hard hitting headline is usually somewhere in the middle. It's not where you start.
Huh. Interesting. It's almost like the subject line of your email too. Same thing, right? That's
Exactly.
really where it should be. So
Exactly.
let me ask you a question about email. So if you use SEO in emails, what would be considered a good open rate?
I think you need to be looking at somewhere in the 70,
Okay.
80% that your email list is opening. I do have that, but I've been doing this for a long time, and I was a business development expert before, so I really do need the sack if it's not that good. And I'm very, very clear that all of my freebies, all of my discount codes, they go to my email list. Like, that's the only place they go. So they're not going to be in my group. They're not going to be on my social media and my email list. And I'm true to that. So I held a webinar on Monday morning, which was called Creating Consistent Income with SEO. My email list got 5 free places. And the open rate was ridiculous, because I put it in the subject, and it was a fight to get there first. I think
Oh my goodness.
there was about 500 people trying to get 5 places, so it was really quite funny. But then I followed that up with a discount code for everybody else, so they didn't feel like they'd missed out. So yeah, it's making sure that I know from my group, the biggest issue that small business owners have is creating consistent income from their business. That's what they all tell me is the biggest issue. And so I've made it my mission to be able to solve that, and to help them with that. And I give most of my value in my group and in my emails newsletter. So
That's fantastic. I'm actually going to have to steal that from you, your idea about email. I'm going to, so all the listeners out there that are on my email list, be on the lookout, because I'm going to steal that
you've got to be on the
strategy.
list. As they would say in England, you've got to be in it to win it.
That's right. Well, we say that here too in the US.
So yeah, you've got to be in it to win it, everybody. And you've got to get on Kathy's list quick.
That's right. Kathy's and Andrea's list.
Yes,
Quick.
Kathy and Andrew's list. So we will be providing a link to get onto my email list,
Yes,
because
absolutely.
I have got more webinars coming up throughout the course of the year, and I do actually record them so people can purchase them from my website. So if you want a free spot, you need to be on my email list.
That's absolutely right. Well, I have to say you have provided so much good information that everybody needs to run to their computer if they're listening instead of viewing on their computer, and sign up for Andrea's Facebook page, which is called the Sassy Entrepreneurs Organization.
Yeah, you've
Correct?
got it's for ladies and gents. So please don't, if you're a gentleman listening, please don't feel you can't. The sassy tends to imply that we're all ladies, and then we are predominantly, but I think we do have 5 gentlemen, and the sassy's there because we are a sassy group, and it was a great word to pick when I was looking at
Sassy
SEO.
is a great word, and I would say, gentlemen that are out there listening, don't be deterred by that, because you will learn a lot, obviously, from this lady. And then I want to thank you because you have been amazing. You have
Thank you.
provided a lot of great information so that the entrepreneurs that are listening or viewing, they can move their business forward and create revenue, not traffic, correct?
Yeah, we want to create revenue, not traffic. I wish I had a megaphone.
You should have like a giant megaphone and definitely be shouting that from the
Yeah,
rooftops,
I
because
could be
that's
out in the car shouting out of the window. So a bit like you do when you're trying to drum up support when you're on a political campaign. I need to be out with my
that's right.
megaphone.
That's right. So all the information will be in the show notes on the page. And again, connect with Andrea because she is amazing. She definitely is the SEO angel. You picked the best name ever because you definitely are an angel. So thank you so much for being my guest
Absolute pleasure.
today.
Absolute pleasure. And thank you so much for having me. And yeah, please come and connect. I just absolutely love connecting with small business owners, and it's my actual pleasure to help. So yeah, please come and connect. It'd be wonderful to connect with you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again.